To a Ferguson police officer shooting and killing an 18-year-old.
A local 18-year-old is shot and killed by police in Ferguson.
Last night, again, in suburban St. Louis, the scene that photographers captured looked like a police state.
Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot! Hands up! Don't shoot!
What's really going on in Ferguson? To put it mildly, what's going on here in the United States, where Ferguson, Missouri, is just one of many cities here in the U.S. where unrest and protest has occurred due to the police shooting of an unarmed black man. And certainly, this is something that has been going on for a while. While the incidents in Ferguson, Missouri basically set off a firestorm across the nation and world, as it opened the eyes of many as they said, enough is enough. The shooting of Michael Brown occurred on August 9, 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis. Brown, an 18-year-old black man, was fatally shot by Darren Wilson, 28, a white Ferguson police officer. The disputed circumstances of the shooting and the result of protests and civil unrest has received considerable attention in the U.S. and abroad, and sparked a vigorous debate about the relationship between law enforcement and African Americans and the police use of force doctrine in Missouri and nationwide. Just the same, an African American woman by the name of Sandra Sandy Bland, who went to Texas for a job interview, was stopped for improper signaling a lane change, was yanked out of her car, forced to the ground, and multiple officers used excessive force to arrest her. She was charged with assault on a public servant. 72 hours later, she ended up dead in her cell while in police custody. She was against racial injustice. Along with the shooting of an unarmed black man and the killing of Sandra Sandy Bland and many other incidents across the country. As sad as it is, Ferguson is here in Atlanta, St. Louis, Boston, San Bernardino, Los Angeles, Cleveland, New York, South Carolina, Baltimore, Arlington, Texas. This year alone, every 9 days, an unarmed black man has been shot by police. In 2013, black men ages 16 to 25 were 4 times more likely than white men to be killed. While protesters marched, it wasn't without incident of looters, rioters, and other would-be criminals. It was sad to see the actions of a few people destroy a community with no regards to anyone's safety or concerns of the outcome. Like in other cities across America, peaceful protests and demonstrations were held, while at the same time there were some that were not so peaceful. There were those who truly marched for justice and to make a stance for the cause, and then there were those that, irregardless of the situation, decided to become destructive in their actions. Needless to say, people of all races came together for justice and equality for all. For an area such as Ferguson, the ripple effect that it had on the metropolitan area was not good, let alone the businesses that lost so much, especially to those they serve in the community and the surrounding areas. When we see the price of goods increase as a result of the actions of a few, we all pay for it. The jobs that were lost and the effect that it will have on those who depended on the income in which they received. It doesn't matter that this happened in Ferguson. It's happening all across the land where we live, where we work, where we play and enjoy and raise our families. There is no excuse for those who violated the law. There is no excuse for what happened, and for others to suffer as a result is inexcusable, just the same, while the actions of some does not dictate the actions of all. We all must find a way to stop the injustice, not only by law enforcement, but those who perpetrate the crimes against one another. Over the course of the year, we have watched and witnessed countless protests and statements that Black lives matter. Yes, they do, but all lives matter, irregardless of color. While this statement is true, there continues to be an increasing rise in Black-on-Black crime. Will and where we will see little in the way of people protesting within their own communities where these crimes are taking place, but rather on a larger front, protest and march on protesting the injustice of shooting of an unarmed black man. In any case, the injustice of taking a life is wrong, regardless of the race. So where do we go? How do we change that which is broken and destined to have so many people of one race disproportionately oppressed in a society where the rights of all are supposed to be treated equally and fairly? Do we go back to basics where the family is responsible for raising their kids? However, since so many of our family structure has been broken to a point that many of our men, our black men, are MIA, missing in action, how do we pull it back together? Our real concern should be, how do we change the injustices that have occurred? How do we correct the system that so many feel that is unfair to so many? What has been taking place over several years will not be solved in a matter of days or months. Once each and every individual look within themselves to make a difference, regardless of race, then can we begin to make a difference. People will need to look within themselves to want to make a difference, to change that comes from within. However, as long as people see the system as biased, bigotry, unfair, and prejudice against any group of people, we will continue to have these same issues. I employ all of you that are watching this documentary, this telecast, that you look within yourselves and ask the question, what is it that I can do to make a difference, to make a change? Can I change from within? And the answer is yes. But again, it only begins with you, and you. This is Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. I am your host.
This show will explore and touch on the topics that may affect us directly or indirectly in some way. At the same time, it is our goal to inform, inspire, educate, as well as entertain you. With the recent events in Ferguson, Missouri over the last year, they have not been without controversy. Nonetheless, we must come and find a way whereby we can live among one another in peace without the bigotry, prejudices, and hate. However one perceives the system, we must strive and should strive to come up with viable solutions that will have a positive impact on our society. I'm standing here in St. Louis, Missouri at the mural of the late Michael Brown Jr. By the way, this episode focuses on Ferguson, Missouri, but more specifically, Ferguson as it relates to various areas here in the United States. So as to say, what's really going on in Ferguson? What's going on with our society and the people that live among us. This documentary will focus on some of the events that have occurred over the past year, not just here in Ferguson, but all across our country. Ferguson, as we know it, may be here in Atlanta, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, Aberdeen, Texas, San Bernardino, California, Boston, New York, you name it, it's everywhere.
I guess first thing we're going to talk about is, it's a year later with the Mike Brown situation. And I guess the first question I ask everybody is, do you think that things are getting better or worse in the city?
They're getting worse. Just for the simple fact that, the police nowadays, they, it's basically like a slave catcher back then that was on a horse, and a slave catcher now that's just driving with motors in their cars. You know what I mean? It's, they killing our people and shooting them without any reason or fear of doing it. But us as a people, we so strong, we ineluctable about anything and everything. We know how to overpower, just ignore the fact of the damage that they trying to do. And it just don't make any sense to me personally why they feel they can just pump deity into our hearts. But,
Deity.
What made you use that word? What made you use deity to describe what you're talking about? Because I felt you when you said deity. What made you use deity?
Because, you know, it's a fear-mongering thing, man, that they trying to express upon us and make us believe. And, you know, me being me, you can't nanogenetically mind alter me because I know what perspective to put these things in and what grid to put these things all in.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, when you say fear, what do you mean by fear? Are you saying that they're using fear as a tool?
Yeah, they use it as a tool all day, every day, man. They use anything as fear. They try to make us fear the way they talk to us.
You're talking about the police. You're talking about the police. Yeah. Now, okay, let me interject right there and ask you this. So do you feel like that this is all police officers or just certain types of police officers?
Just certain types. It's just certain police officers. Okay. You got some that are very cool and some that are check the other ones that
are out of line.
Yeah.
Join us here on the AIB Network Thursday nights at 8:30 p.m. for a straight talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. Host Roger Hunt will explore the lives of others in many arenas of our society with discussions that will inform, inspire, encourage, and enlighten those who we interact with in our daily lives. Featuring hot topics in the news, experts in their field, intimate interviews, and great entertainment. Join us for Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted on the AIB Network Thursday nights at 8:30.
At this point in time, a year afterwards, the mentality is not even just on the police. You know, the lifting of certain mandates and prohibitions that y'all may not know about. You know, prior to the Mike Brown thing, y'all know these gun mandates or gun bylaws or whatnot were real strict as far as who can walk around with a gun and who can't. Right. You know, and at what point do you lose your constitutional right? But as of October 10th last year in Missouri, anybody can walk around legally with a gun. Mm-hmm. Is what is stated. You know, it's back to the constitutional law. Now, without people knowing this, you got a whole bunch of people still getting shot for having guns when legally, Constitution, they're allowed to.
So basically, you're saying it's a sense of entrapment.
It's more than a sense of entrapment, because also with them passing, you know, lifting the mandates, you got other people who are using the fear of the terrorists, mm-hmm. of the homeland terrorists, mm-hmm. as a reason in which they should be able to openly bear guns and shoot. Yeah. You know, go ahead. One point in time, it was to shoot to immobilize a suspect, shoot to take down a suspect. Mm-hmm. Now even if you were a security officer, you talk shoot to kill.
Yeah. Hello, this is Roger Hunt for Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. I'm in the home of none other than Miss Courtney Hake. I got that right?
Yes.
And we're going to continue our conversation on Ferguson, Missouri. More importantly, what's really going on in Ferguson. And as we've been discussing with other members and community citizens and residents, Courtney is actually a resident of St. Charles, Missouri. But at the same time, I wanted to get a perspective from someone not necessarily living in the Ferguson, Missouri area, but also you're in the St. Louis metropolitan area. St. Charles, Missouri is probably 15, 20 minutes just west mm-hmm. of the Ferguson, Florissant area. So when all of this happened last year, what was the persona from an area outside of Ferguson, but in St. Charles? Mm-hmm. What was the perception, as you would say, from residents out in the St. Charles area?
It was scary. It was kind of frightening. We don't know the area very well. We don't really know the people from the area, and we don't know how they're going to retaliate with what's going on. So we didn't know if it would make its way out to St. Charles or if it would just stay where it was. At first it was just kind of, it's a bad situation, and then it slowly got worse. So being in St. Charles, we weren't terribly affected by it.
Okay. So as far as, like I said, it's been a year and what have you, and the talk is, black on black crime, because we protest the police shooting of an unarmed black man for whatever reason, and whether people perceive it as being right or wrong, injustice, immoral, criminal acts of what Mr. Wilson did. But the perception, again, was viewed, and comments, I've had comments directed toward me as far as, well, he probably deserved it. And when I say this, and I'm only saying it because I have another race here in front of me, a Caucasian woman here in front of me, and what have you heard, in regards to any type of stereotyping, of other people, bigotry, prejudice, or what have you?
I think it's safe to say, you do hear the prejudice talk. You do get a lot of, stereotypes coming out from the situation. Being far away from it, you don't really know what's happening, to be honest.
So how does that, with you, because I know you're in an interracial relationship, so did that affect you in your decision to date a black guy, and I'm just throwing that out there though, but did it affect your decision, or?
It didn't, but it slowly does affect my family.
Okay.
Bringing that into my family, they have a firmer view on how things should be. So, they are a little bit leery of it.
Okay.
But getting to know the person, getting to know the situation, definitely opens their eyes to what the truth is.
Gotcha. Now, if you can tell the people just one thing, what do you think it would take for us to make a difference, to make a change in the way, I would say, even with law enforcement, the approach, and not just an African American, but any race of people? What would you say to a community as far as trying to make a change when it regards to law enforcement?
I would say no matter what you do, it's always going to affect everyone. You have to really look at how it affects not only you, but your family and their family and everyone in your community. Whatever you do is going to affect the rest of the nation. So you have to kind of watch what you do before you make those actions.
The Department of Justice report, which came out, the DOJ report that came out earlier part of this year, which made reference to the racial bias in which law enforcement had with certain groups of people. Do you think, and I'll just, you're in St. Charles. I haven't had any bad experiences in St. Charles myself, being from the St. Louis metropolitan area. Do you think having that report come out shed some light on some issues that maybe should have been addressed earlier on?
Perhaps, yes. It didn't really affect us, again, too much in St. Charles. We didn't really talk about it a whole lot. But from my side of things, in an older generation, yes, it could have, been more of a talk. But I think with my generation coming into this, we're more open about these things and more understanding of the future and how it could be. So.
Okay. How do you think it could be? I mean, with race and in regards to racial relationships, and trying to bridge the gap. And you mentioned something, the older generation, and then now we have the younger generation coming forth doing things different than what they did back
in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how does that play in today's, you know, protest versus the protest that we probably saw back with Dr. Martin Luther King?
Right. It's hard to say. It's kind of history repeats itself to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that are happening now that, you know, already happened, and we kind of need to look at the past and see, has that helped us? Has it not affected us? And we just kind of need to take a step back. I'm hoping with my generation coming in, we will look into that more. We will be smarter and, you know, make wiser choices, but who knows?
Okay. What would you tell the people as far as, you know, going forward, you know, as far as trying to live in harmony, peace? What advice would you give a community? And again, Ferguson, not meaning just Ferguson, Missouri, but Ferguson across the country, because this set off a firestorm across our nation.
Right.
And each time, subsequently, after this happened, there were other incidents around the country.
Mm-hmm.
But because we have the power of social media,
Mm-hmm.
you know, having vivid images of what's going on, and people being bitter and angry at what they see, because if it happens here, it's going to happen somewhere else, and it's just a matter of time. And once we see those images, how do we change? How do we, you know, again, individuality, how do we change or begin to make change so that we can live in harmony?
I think looking forward in our lives and seeing how this is going to affect our kids and our kids' kids, and just seeing, you know, if I make this one bad choice, how is this going to affect the rest of my life? And, you know, my family. And like I said, again, just looking to see how it's going to affect the rest of the community, because I'm big in, you know, one little thing can spark a whole series of bad events for a nation. So
do you think it's healthy that we sit down and begin those conversations and try to come out to some common solution and ground?
yeah, I think so. I think looking at law enforcement and then looking to the people and seeing, you know, what type of agreement can we come to, or how can we help? I think it is a two-way street, and they need to kind of decide, you know, looking forward, what we can do to better the situation.
Okay. One of the things that a question was asking me, and they didn't want to come on camera for an interview, but however, the question was asked if whether or not black on black crime, you know, where you see the protests for one incident, but not for the black on black crime that happens in the various communities. What do you say to that, Laura?
You know, I'm not really knowledged enough in it, honestly,
Okay.
to answer any questions about it. I don't really know, to be honest.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But I do appreciate you, you know, offering your time and
Sure.
coming on the show, and, you know, and giving your thoughts and your views and opinions on that. Courtney, appreciate you so much, and we do hope that things will get better and improve here, not only in the St. Louis metropolitan area, but also across our country as well, as, you know, we begin to heal and look for viable solutions in making things work, and that we work as a country of unified peace for one another. Again, this is Roger Hunt. I'm your host, Straight Talk with Roger Hunt Unscripted. With me is Miss Courtney Hake. We do appreciate her coming in. We'll have more, you know, interviews from some others that you're going to see as well. But we hope that you will have the opportunity to comment as well. You can check us out on Facebook. Send your comments in on there under Radstar Media Entertainment. And then also you can send your comments in via our website.
I have with me Robert Jr. Stewart, who's going to talk about positive change, if we can say that there's been positive change. And if it hasn't been positive change, what is it that we need to do to get to that point?
Come together. We need to come together as people.
Okay.
If we don't come together, there's not going to be a real change. I mean, we shouldn't be doing the same things what we did last year, this year. We had numerous incidents that occurred this year on the 1-year anniversary of the Michael Brown death, and I feel that in order to make change, we have to make change amongst ourselves. You know, that's by respecting one another, coming together and doing something peaceful instead of being disruptive.
Okay, so in regards to respecting one another, black people respecting each other, blacks respecting whites, and whites respecting blacks, it's just all people respecting one another.
Well, in my opinion, it doesn't seem that way on a certain degree.
Okay.
Because when you have people getting arrested and looting, that's not change. That's revisiting what you did last year. So in order to make that change, you gotta make a statement. We gotta stop going against our brothers. We gotta uplift one another. And we have to come together as people in order to make this change and make this change happen. Whether you black, white, Hispanic, don't matter. You know.
So what is it that, you know, the DOJ report came out, Department of Justice report came out, and a lot of, you know, and not only just with Ferguson, but some of the other municipalities that report looked at as far as the racial bias that it saw in various municipalities, the profiling and the pulling over of certain classes of people, groups of people.
That should have been addressed a long time ago. Because I know just people that look like me, I kind of can get away with it just a little bit, but I experienced the same thing as your skin, you know. But we as people, we gotta approach the situation differently. We gotta say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am. Do you need any help, man? You gotta be on that respectful level, and if they see that, their guard is let down a little bit more. Because I've been in numerous situations where I could have went to jail, but the guy didn't even take me to jail that night because the way I probably came across. He said, I'm supposed to take you to jail, but I'm not going to take you to jail tonight. So the way you approach a situation, and each situation is different, is going to determine your outcome of the rest of your life sometimes. You know?
Okay, so this community, you know, with the looting and the burnings of the various buildings, and even in the documentary, as we see certain parts of this stretch of West Florissant, we're on West Florissant Avenue Boulevard, where some changes taking place. Ground Zero, the Quick Trip was burned down, which is a few doors down from us, and a couple other businesses that were destroyed. Some positive things are going up in some of the sites. Some of the businesses will rebuild, and then unfortunately some of them will not rebuild. What do you say to a community that once had services? Because in my documentary that we reported on is that people that depended on those businesses no longer have those businesses to do what they need to do, especially the elderly that may say this is close proximity to where I need to go to do business, and now they maybe have to go 4 or 5 miles to go somewhere else. What do you say to those people who lost so much in such a short period of time?
Keep the faith. You gotta have faith. If you don't have faith is something unseen, but you gotta have a positive outlook on everything because something's gonna break through.
Okay, and with that, again, our civic leaders here in Ferguson, Missouri, and unfortunately they weren't available, you know,